So, Pluribus, Vince Gilligan is back, and yeah, right away the opening feels familiar. That vast, quiet landscape shot, you just know you're in his world again. No music, no dialogue, just that weird calm before. Well, this time nothing. In Breaking Bad you get this calm landscape and then like a punch in the face you're dropped into an intense scene which pulls you right in. But this time the show just starts with making us ask a lot of questions. And to be honest, this show didn't need that high octane opening. Breaking Bad needed that because if it started off with Walt just living his boring mundane life, the audience would have gotten bored. Here though the whole story is bigger in scope. We're talking about space, radio signals from 600 light years away, and extraterrestrial stuff. It's not a story about the depressed middle-aged high school teacher. But we're still dropped into a pretty insane situation. Astronomers discover a radio transmission from Kepler-22b, an exoplanet roughly 600 light years away, in the constellation Cygnus. They detect a repeating 4-tone transmission, a perfect match for the 4 bases of RNA. If you don't know what RNA is, it's kinda like DNA, but not exactly the same. DNA is basically the blueprint. It just sits there and holds all your body's information. RNA is more like the version that actually does things. It takes pieces of that DNA code and helps your body make proteins and build stuff. So in Pluribus, when they recreated that RNA from the signal, they basically made a living piece of code. And that's what ended up turning it into a virus. Which is not really a virus as they mentioned, but I'll just say virus cause it's easier. And we've seen people get infected with this in a couple different ways, like through a bite, through a kiss, and even through the air. Which means this thing isn't picky. It can spread through blood, saliva, planes, and if it's airborne, probably by just existing near someone who's already joined. And the scary part is that it's not really a virus in the normal sense. It's more like a strand of alien code that hijacks your cells and rewires your brain chemistry. And in the show, it's even described like it's rewriting the language of the human body. So when someone gets bitten or kissed or just breathed in, that RNA gets into their bloodstream and it starts copying itself inside their cells, like a biological chain reaction. And that's how people end up convulsing and then suddenly calm. Or dead. We still don't know why some people just die or why some are not infected like Carol, and actually the infected themselves don't know either. But to actually go back to the episode, after the astronomers find the signal and make the virus, we cut to Carol, who we learn is a romantic novelist. A cool thing I noticed here is how in a way it seems like this shot and this shot are in parallel to each other. In one, astronomers are looking at this unique radio signal, and in this one, all these people are looking at Carol. And this gives it a sense from the start that Carol herself is unique. Right from the start, even though the show is completely different, Vince Gilligan's touch is felt especially in the comedy. It feels very natural and seamless. The situation itself is funny. It doesn't feel like it's made to be funny on purpose, which is how great comedy is made. Biggest example, look at The Office. Another great thing they do is how they introduce the characters here, and in the show as a whole. Vince is really great at giving out exposition in a way that you kinda don't even notice it if you're not looking. This is probably one of the best qualities of Vince and the team of writers. I don't know if there's the same people from Breaking Bad, but he has this quality where you don't notice the exposition at all in the show. Even when it's purposeful, like the ending scene of the first episode, that the show gives you just enough information to be satisfied but also leave you asking more questions. Another thing here is Carol with her yellow jacket. That choice is very smart, because it makes her stand out amongst the crowd in almost all the scenes. If you don't know this about Breaking Bad and also Better Call Saul, they have this color theory, where you can basically see the progression or emotional state of a character through the colors they're wearing. It's really interesting and I have videos about it on YouTube. You should definitely give them a watch. It's, again, really interesting. And I'm interested if we're gonna see this in this show, even though I haven't noticed it so far. Again, the only thing I noticed with the colors is the yellow jacket and in episode 2 Carol's yellow gloves, which I'll talk about later. Next up we have the infection scene, the patient zero of our outbreak. And this scene gave me so much Walking Dead, Last of Us, and especially later on with the Hive Mind, Sinners vibes. Since you kinda expect something really disturbing, but it's kinda not that. The disturbing factor literally comes from the fact it's not disturbing. It feels uncanny, which makes it disturbing. That was a really convoluted way to explain this, but I hope you get what I mean. Another thing which makes the spread of the virus so believable is how much intelligence the infected retain. Well, it's not even how much, they retain all of their intelligence, plus the intelligence of every person they've infected, and later on, basically every single person in the world. This just seems so scary to me. Like how they're literally fully cognitive and have the ability to find the literal best ways to spread the virus. In that sense, it's basically the opposite of The Walking Dead and even The Last of Us. Because yeah, in The Last of Us, zombies are more intelligent than in The Walking Dead, but still, they mostly took over because of their strength and being able to run. And in The Walking Dead, because everyone is infected, so if you literally die from anything, you turn. So you get thousands of people an hour turning into zombies, and then even more as they start biting others. But here in Pluribus, it's so easy to them. Not only because of their intelligence, but because they don't look any different. They look like normal people, so you don't suspect anything until it is too late. This show also has extraordinary cinematography. Absolutely every shot looks amazing, and it's maybe a little bit early, but right now it does seem like it will be the best out of Vince's shows we've seen in terms of cinematography. It seems modernized. Like you know you're watching a modern TV show, but it also looks old school, especially with the lighting and color grading. The lighting is bold, you see the harsh shadows and highlights. The color grading has these amazing colors and that hint of film grain, which makes it feel really raw, which I absolutely love. But let's talk about Carol now. She looks like this grumpy, burnt out romance novelist who kinda looks like a depressed person. Like she fits that, stereotype. She seems cynical, but as we later see, she almost wears this as an armor. In a real circumstance, she would always help and be the good. And we see that in episode 2, where she literally tries to help all the infected people, even though she doesn't know their true intentions. And that's why she feels like the inverse of Walter White. Vince Gilligan's whole pitch this time is moving away from the anti-hero thing. Carol looks abrasive at first, but the show keeps peeling back layers to maybe reveal somewhat of a hero archetype. And the situation she's put in also frames this, like how she's basically alone in this world, the lone hero who needs to sacrifice herself to save the world. Everyone is either infected or, as we see in the second episode, entering this new world. She's the only one that actually tries to push back on this. Next up, we've got the whole bar scene where everyone gets infected, and holy this was an incredible scene. The whole way it's done, where we see this guy go out the bar, his footsteps purposefully made louder so you can notice him. Then in the blurred background, he crashes the car, and as Carol tries to help him, we see Helen just fall to the ground. No one around to help. Carol enters the bar, and again, holy everyone is infected. She's alone, and I don't know what else to say, but absolute cinema. By the way, I also noticed this Al Capone mural on the bar wall, and yeah, that's actually part of the real location. It's not put there on purpose. They filmed that scene at a place in Albuquerque, and the Al Capone mural is literally just there on the wall. So it's not some hidden Easter egg or secret symbol the show planted. But this is Vince Gilligan, and to overanalyze it a bit, Al Capone kinda represents control through the shadows. Someone who built an empire out of corruption and charm, ruled from the shadows and made people think he was untouchable. And that actually lines up really well with the Join, the hive mind in Pluribus. This thing that takes over from the inside, reshapes society, and hides behind the illusion of peace. It's organized, it's unstoppable, and funnily enough, it's smiling the whole time, using its charm. But again, this is just me overanalyzing, to be honest. A great thing in the show is this timer we see in these episodes. At first it's this countdown to total chaos, and then it becomes a marker of when world changed and how we are moving away from the old world. It sets the stakes really well at first, and then just makes you feel the dread of Carol. Carol puts the infected Helen in the back of the pickup truck the guy crashed with and started driving with the infected driver on the passenger seat. This is great because it adds this tension, since we know he's gonna wake up soon and Carol could be screwed. At least this was until we understood that Carol can't get infected in any way. Because at first I thought that maybe she can get infected through airborne transfer, but maybe she could get infected from a saliva transfer or blood transfer. But yeah, this is proven to not be the case later in the episode. Also, the way we see the turned over cop car and then we pan to the city seeing it in flames and destroyed is a perfect way to show the chaos. In this way they're peeling back layers to slowly tell you, okay, the world is screwed. Carol arrives at the hospital and to nobody's surprise everyone there is infected. Oh, to Carol's surprise I think, but anyways. An interesting thing here is the baby. They don't show it explicitly, but from Carol's reaction it seems that it maybe also is infected. And I'm actually interested how the virus works on the babies, since if it's a hive mind, will that baby be able to speak or think with the intelligence of an adult human being? A lot of questions here. Then of course Helen dies, which is really shocking to me, and I'm still quite interested why some people just die and some people don't. And also just to mention, absolutely masterful performance by Rhea Seehorn. She conveyed the emotional weight of the situation perfectly. Getting back home with Helen's body, Carol again witnesses the insane power of the hive mind, who actually know everything that everyone infected knows. And in that second before Helen died, she actually became part of the hive mind, who I didn't mention is called the joining. And basically her memories got kind of uploaded to the hive mind. Uploaded sounds wild though. And the last in this episode, holy this was such a masterfully done scene. The way Carol gets hope that there may be a way out of this just to then get her hope completely destroyed with that horizontally scrolling text literally saying her name and telling her to call them. It was just insane. The fact that she's literally talking to her phone to a representative of the government on the TV is wild. This scene also reassures all the things we've talked about so far in an expository way. Expository but done in a really good way. And as I mentioned, they give you enough info to be satisfied but to, also say,
what the is happening?
And for the second time, I want to mention Rhea Seehorn is an extraordinary actress. She absolutely destroyed the whole episode, and she's the perfect person to portray this character who seems to be against the whole world, which is really different to stuff we've seen from events in the past. And the timer counting up at the end is just, again, absolute cinema. Craig Mazin actually said this really smart thing about Vince Gilligan. He said,
I'm particularly fond of disorientation. It's something I've been watching Vince Gilligan do this forever, where you have this 5-6 minutes of the beginning of every episode of television where the audience is the most open and receptive they'll ever be. They are willing to be confused, mystified, puzzled, as long as you get them ultimately on solid ground.
And that's exactly what Vince does here, in the opening of episode 2. You're watching this woman with short hair, alone, quiet, kinda mysterious, and your brain's already spinning, like who is she? Is she like Carol, another immune person? But then these people start walking in from every direction and you realize she's part of the hive mind. It's that sweet spot Craig Mazin was talking about, those few minutes where Gilligan knows he can throw anything at you and you'll stay hooked because you trust he'll make it all make sense eventually. Then we get the opening credits of the show, which I don't think are anything groundbreaking, but are pretty good, and I like how they represent the hive mind in a way. All these dots connecting to form the word pluribus, which the word pluribus is Latin and means many or from many, of many. It's actually associated with the phrase e pluribus unum, which means out of many one, which makes sense for Carol's character, and actually that phrase was considered the unofficial motto of the USA. The Latin phrase is still featured on US currency, passports, and can be found on the Great Seal of the United States.
God bless America.
This is probably the strongest virus or epidemic I've seen in any piece of media ever, since they literally have the skill and knowledge of every single person on Earth. And this way their organization and planning is absolutely immaculate. They can literally make anything they want to happen. Also, I love how they make us feel so divided in this second episode. Yes, the joined are the enemy. That's how they're portrayed, especially in the first episode. But they also keep trying to help Carol. They send this lady called Zosha, who literally resembles one of the main characters in Carol's novel, who's called Raban, a male character who was actually supposed to be female in the early versions. But it was later changed, and the joint know this because they have Helen's memories in their hive mind. Zosha is there as a companion to Carol, who helps her not only directly, but also tries to help her with grief. It's disarming for not only Carol, but us the audience. We feel weirded out. We know that we should not buy this, but at the same time, why not? They're actually not doing anything destructive to Carol. It's the other way around right now. And this makes me think, are they hiding some dark truth behind their smile masks? You know? And also Carol's emotions hurting them, we can see that twice in this episode. Whenever Carol exudes strong hateful emotions, all the joints start convulsing and people die. And later on they even give numbers. Over 800 million died because of the first outbreak, and then another 11 million when Carol lost it. Carol's rage is literally a weapon of mass destruction, and it makes sense why they're trying so hard to babysit Carol. Not only because it seems that they're actually kind, at least on the surface, but also self-preservation. They know that every time she loses it, millions die. And to go back to the yellow gloves in this episode, they're using yellow on Carol a bunch. That rhymed, by the way. Color's historically a big Vince thing, as I've said, and if I read into it, it could mean a few things. It's yellow to make Carol stand out from everyone. Also, it's like caution. Handle with care. Since every time she loses it, millions of people die. She's like a nuclear bomb to them. She's dangerous and she needs to be handled with care, or else, boom.
Psychopaths! Get the f*** away! You f***ings! Get the f*** Get up!
Another question here is, will Carol and the joint team up, or is she gonna ditch them and hunt cures with the other immune people? Episode 2 pushes her into a room with the other survivors, and it's messy. Some of them are really chilling in first class and having the time of their lives, and Carol is the only one who looks genuinely disturbed and hungry to fight this. Koumba Diabate, I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry if I butchered that. But that dude is literally living his best life on a Air Force One aircraft. The contrast is really interesting. It shows how different people adapt to these circumstances, like every other good apocalypse media. And also it's mentioned that there are 12 other immune people. Well, at first they say 11, and then they find Diabate. So maybe there are other immune people who are in hiding and will get revealed in the future and will actually be on Carol's side. We'll see. The joint keeps saying that they don't kill, full stop. They source food that's already dead and they'll avoid harm. And yet we learn that 800 plus million people died in the conversion. And Carol's spikes cause even more death. So it doesn't really line up that well. And Carol is trying to dig into that contradiction. Because yes, she doesn't believe them at all. And the other immune people seem to have these anchors to keep them happy. Diabate has the luxury which he enjoys the fruits of. The others have families who keep them nice and comfy. But Carol has nothing. No friends, family, partner, she's all alone. And she rejects that comfort. And I love how in this episode, when Carol learns that there are other immune people, you get this hope that maybe they can start making a plan. And that maybe Carol is not alone in this. Only to find out that all of them are not on her side. So she goes back to literally square one, where she is again completely alone in all of this. And I love how just demented the whole dynamic between Diabate, Zosha and Carol is. It feels like a breakup in a weird way. It feels intimate but at the same time political. Zosha feels like a normal person with free will at times, and then you remember she's connected to 8 billion other people. It's really twisted, and it almost feels like Carol has actually started to get attached to her. Maybe in a way, at least a little bit, especially in the ending. Now, I don't think at the end of the episode she's trying to stop the plane because of Zosha alone, but I think she's just mad at the situation, how this guy is trying to take advantage of Zosha, and just how up everything is. But I do think that there is something in her that genuinely likes the company of Zosha, and subconsciously she also looks like the main character in her novel, so that also helps. And just to mention, that final shot of Carol in front of the plane trying to stop it. But anyways, this is it for the double premiere of Pluribus. I literally don't have any complaints about the show. I think it's masterfully crafted. Episode 2 was definitely less strong than the first one, but as a whole both episodes are absolutely amazing. And again, I have no complaints for the show. The idea, the scope, the writing, cinematography, humor, characters, twisted scenes, everything was just amazing, and I can't wait for next week's episode. Oh, and I almost forgot again. Give that fucking Emmy to Rhea, please. She acted her ass off in these 2 episodes. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see ya in the next one.